Laura Jane the Rawtarian from therawtarian.com, and today in the Rawtarian's kitchen we are making salmon salad pate. I know it doesn't sound that exciting. There's no salmon, but it is orange and that's something, right? But it is actually super delicious, and the way you would use the salmon salad pate is particularly if you have a busy lifestyle. Let's think about it. You're coming home, you've had a really busy day. You're starving and you just want to have dinner and you don't want to have to think about it. If you keep some of this salmon salad pate in your fridge, it keeps extremely well for days, doesn't get gross and weird and scary. I don't like leftovers. It keeps really well, and you can throw it on top of a salad. It's really, filling and it's delicious. So let's just get right into it. It's super easy. There's no prep required. There's no waiting required. All you're going to do is throw all of your ingredients. First of all, ignore this. We're not going to think about that as an ingredient for right now. We're going to throw all of our ingredients except the celery. We're going to throw all this and we're going to make sort of a salmon paste out of it. And then we're going to just mix the celery together to kind of make it a little bit chunky. So first things first, we're going to mix all of this in the food processor. But probably you'll know, if you've made many of my recipes, the best thing to do if you have a food processor recipe with nuts in it is generally, and I'll write it out, but generally you want to take your nuts. But I didn't tell you what's in this, but I'll tell you right now. But I'll finish my thought. So your nuts, you are going to want to turn them into flour first, and then you're going to add everything else. But what was that? That was 1 cup of sunflower seeds, raw, unsalted, untoasted. And then there's 1/2 cup of red pepper, so we're going to be adding that. 1/3 cup of sun-dried tomatoes. And these have been soaked in oil, which is ideal because then they're going to process better and you get more oil in the recipe, so those are great. We have 1 teaspoon of dill. Kind of optional. If you don't have dill, it would still work, but it really does add a nice flavor. And of course, this is dried dill. If you had fresh dill, generally you need to use double the amount of fresh. So this is 1 teaspoon of dry or 2 teaspoons of fresh spices, dill, and 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt. So as I was so excited, I'm actually planning on eating this as soon as I finish filming this. So maybe that's why I was like, let's go. So we're going to turn this into flour. It looks great. And again, the reason we do that first is to basically make sure that the nuts get turned into little pieces rather than everything getting confused. So that is a little bit of, nut flour, sunflower seed flour. Okay, now we're going to add everything else. We have the red pepper, and it's just roughly chopped. And we have the 1/3 cup of sun-dried tomatoes soaked in oil, the dill, the salt, and we're just going to make it into a paste or a pate, which always sounds kind of gross. And no one gets excited about these savory recipes like the sweet recipes. They get a lot more excited about the sweet ones. But we all need savory recipes, and this is a really good one. So we've got everything in there. We're going to just make it into a paste. To mention that frequently when you're making a paste such as this one in your food processor, this isn't looking too bad actually, but often you might find it's kind of getting hung up and you want to stop and get in there with your knife and just help it along. It doesn't mean anything is going badly. It's just a useful technique. And I didn't really need to do it actually at that moment, but often you'll find maybe it's just turning into a paste on the bottom, and on the top or on the sides there's like stuff that hasn't processed. So never be afraid to just stop it and help it along, because everybody needs a little help now and then. I think it's pretty good. And I can tell, actually, again, this is going to be really hard for you to tell, I think. I keep having to prop this up on me, but we've got this a little bit chunkier on the sides, and then it's really turned into a paste down at the bottom there. It's pretty close. I would call that, I would say we could call that done. And for the sake of this, and for the sake of my lunch that I'm about to eat, we're gonna say done. So we'll get rid of that. And then we do have the celery, and in many of my recipes, sweet and savory, you'll know, what do I call these? We call them mix-ins. And the reason we're leaving it out is because it's gonna give a nice texture. So we have that with soup. Let's say if we're making mushroom soup, we love to have a creamy mushroom texture, and then mix-ins of chunky mushroom, because it makes everything more interesting to have different textures. Not everything, but recipes are more interesting with different textures. So here we have the pate, and you could get creative with this as well. You could add more mix-ins. For example, I mean, I don't think I would, but I know you could add some chopped parsley or more red pepper bits. Anything, mix-ins. So here we have this and our celery, or green onion, that would be nice as a mix-in here. And you'll notice that I do that frequently with my nut pates. So I have a nice tuna pate, a couple of those, and egg salad, and all kinds of stuff. And the real secret to it, to keep it interesting, is the mix-ins. So essentially you could call that salmon salad pate done. You could certainly eat it right away on top of a salad. Yes, I'm having a whole mental conflict of whether I should go into a story about how I went to visit my sister recently, and she had pre-made this because she knew it was one of my favorite easy meals. And what she did was actually turn them almost into little veggie burgers. So what I normally would do is, you know, just serve this on a salad. And the reason you do this is because a salad doesn't fill you up unless you have, you know, some nuts and good fats in there. But if you're just sprinkling the nuts on, it gets really boring, and that's why we like to make different nut pates. But back to my sister's story, she had served them just almost, like I said, like a veggie burger. So this would stick very well together and store well, and then you could sort of throw it on like, I mean, this is getting to be a lot, but you could form them into patties if you prefer. So that's my raw salmon salad pate. I don't think there's much more to say. Like I said, you could eat it right away, like I'm gonna do right now, and it keeps extremely well in the fridge. So it's a great option, and it's definitely an everyday kind of meal that would work, you know, for real life. And we like to have a lot of those real life recipes too, because it keeps so well, and it's tasty and it's easy. So thank you so much for being here with me. Salmon salad, try it.